Hi everyone, welcome. I was thinking back to something I read in the book of Numbers, and looking at it, this is Numbers 16. In fact, I'll just read it so we're all on the same page. This is at a time when the Israelites have refused to go into the promised land. They now stand condemned, and now they're wandering about in the wilderness. And then we see a rebellion forming against Moses and Aaron. This is instigated by Korah, the son of Kohath, a Levite too. And I'll just read a verse here that it speaks for itself. This is Numbers 16. Hang on a sec. Just give me a sec. Let me read this. It's night time, so I've got my light on. Do not mind about the... Listen, I'm not used to wearing these glasses, but here we go. Don't mind the glare from the light, otherwise it will be way too dark for you to even see me. So they gathered together against Moses and Aaron and said to them, "You take too much upon yourselves, for all the congregation is holy, every one of them, and the Lord is among them. Why do you exalt yourselves before the assembly of the Lord?" And so when Moses heard it, he fell on his face, and he spoke to Korah and all his company, saying, "Tomorrow morning the Lord will show who is his and who is holy, and will cause him to come near to him. That one whom he chooses, he will cause to come near to him. Do this, take censers, Korah and all your company, and put fire in them and put incense in them before the Lord tomorrow. And it shall be that the man whom the Lord chooses is the Holy One. You take up too much upon yourselves, you sons of Levi." So the same thing they charged Moses and Aaron. Moses replied, because you see here in verse 3, they say to Moses and Aaron, "You take too much upon yourselves, for all the congregation is holy." And here Moses now responds back to them and he says, "You take too much upon yourselves, you sons of Levi." The Bible can be quite dramatic when you read it with a certain eye. Looking at that, I kind of started to think about troublemakers. Again, like I said, this is a time when they're now wandering, probably just waiting out their death. And I truly believe God would have allowed them into the promised land at any one time if they had changed their ways, because that's the kind of God we serve. We don't serve a throwaway God. We serve a God of second chances. We serve a God of restoration. We serve a God that is so full of mercy, a God that is pursuing us, constantly calling us to turn back to him. And I really believe that as long as we have the presence of mind to answer to the Holy Spirit and turn to him, he can turn our situation around. But they didn't. They wouldn't. All the way to the end. Case in point, they're here fighting against their chosen leaders, and they're not even sure why they're fighting. It causes me to wonder if they were not just troublemakers, despondent in every way, despairing about their circumstances, their situation. When I think about it, it is such a human thing to do, It's taking on a different form now because it's no longer in person and we've got technological advances, and so now we're doing it online. And we've become the best of hecklers. Sometimes I think they were doing it out of boredom, to be honest, and sometimes it really is out of fear. Probably fear to see another succeed, fear to see another one move things forward. That could have been what was going on here, because in a sense, we tend to do the same as human beings. Sometimes we get overwhelmed, and when we see somebody else doing something, it's so easy to begin to throw stones. It's so easy to begin to say, "I can do it too," or "I can do it better." Because that's what they were doing here. They're saying, "Who do you think you are? Do you think you're the only holy ones? Why would you stand here and try and load it over us? We can do this too. We can do what you're doing. The priesthood is not specific to you. We can have it too." And Moses, if you read, he's quite exasperated when he's dealing with them, because then he ends up telling them, then Moses said to Korah, this is in chapter 6 now, "Is it a small thing?" Hang on, let me just get my glasses again. "Hear now, you sons of Levi," Moses said to Korah, "is it a small thing to you that the God of Israel has separated you from the congregation of Israel to bring you near to himself, to do the work of the tabernacle of the Lord, and to stand before the congregation to serve him?" So they weren't even with the masses. They already had their allocation within the portion of priesthood. Moses and Aaron had been given leadership, but they were servicing the altar. So it's as if that just wasn't enough, and I don't know if they wanted more or they were just troublemakers. To do the work of the tabernacle of the Lord and to stand before the congregation to serve him, and that he has brought you near to himself you and all your brethren, the sons of Levi, with you? And are you seeking the priesthood also?" Quite dramatic, if you ask me. "And are you seeking the priesthood also? Therefore, you and all your company are gathered together against the Lord. And what is Aaron that you complain against him?" So Moses sent to call Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, but they said, "We will not come up." So here we are, like, just direct disobedience. We're not going to listen, because what makes you think you're special than us? And this is exactly what they went on to say. Yeah, they said, "Is it a small thing that you have brought us up out of a land flowing with milk and honey?" Believe it or not, that is Egypt, their land of oppression. They're now calling it the land of milk and honey. Wow, we really have to check our hearts. Yeah, "Is it a small thing that you have brought us up out of a land flowing with milk and honey to kill us in the wilderness, that you should keep acting like a prince over us? Moreover, you have not brought us into a land flowing with milk and honey, nor given us inheritance of fields and vineyards," because that was the promise. That was the promise, and it would have come true had they conquered, had they entered the promised land, but they were so fearful they couldn't fight. But of course, human beings rarely take responsibility for themselves. They were very good at passing the blame. So that's what they're doing here. They've decided, let's blame whoever has been appointed to lead us. Something very common, something that happens all the time. "Nor given us inheritance of fields and vineyards. Will you put out the eyes of these men? We will not come up." They refused. And Moses was very angry and said to the Lord, "Do not respect their offering. I have not taken one donkey from them, nor have I had one of them." And so as the story goes, there was a showdown, and Moses asked them to come with their censers, and he came with his, so that God would show who was his. "And the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, Separate yourselves from among this congregation, that I may consume them in a moment." And so they then fell down on their faces, the congregation, and they said, "Oh God, the God of spirits and all flesh, shall one man sin, and you be angry with all the congregation?" And so the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to the congregation, saying, Get away from the tents of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram." And then Moses said that you should know that if these men die a natural death, then the Lord has not sent me. But if the Lord should do a new thing and open up the ground and swallow them, then you shall know that the Lord sent me. And then that's exactly what happened. The tribes of Korah were swallowed up whole, with like the entire family. And then the 250 men that were giving incense, they were all scorched and burnt. So we see that God has always shown a difference. God will always speak when his people are challenged. God will speak when his leadership is challenged. God will find a way to communicate. I know we're living in a dispensation where the curtain is torn and we can all come before the God of all mercy and obtain mercy, obtain grace, obtain help. It doesn't mean it doesn't appoint people in offices. It doesn't mean it doesn't appoint people in positions. Yes, some abuse those positions, but not all of them. The onus is on us. We have the Spirit of the Lord inside of us. So the onus is on us to be with those leaders that are actually submitted to God. Let those called to do their ministry, to do it. Let's not think that if they can do it, I can do it better than them. No, it's better to just wait upon the Lord, be at our station of assignment, because everyone has a different station of assignment. I remember David saying, "I would rather be a doorkeeper in the house of the Lord." He was so in love with God that he wasn't about position, it wasn't about what place he was serving, but just that he was close to where the ark of the Lord was. And that should be the disposition of our heart, to just want to be in service of God, whatever our assignment, whatever our office, however lowly we perceive it to be, because there is no such thing in God. To serve God is to serve the least of them. That actually is what elevation is. My sister has this saying that she says, the way up is down. So there's really nothing to squabble over. So let's remember that as we continue on our journey in loving the Lord and being his hands and feet here, being the ones that he has chosen to show his glory through. Let's never forget that. Okay, bye.